There's a quiet frustration that settles in for many people after 50. You do everything right. You eat your fruits, avoid junk food, go for walks, maybe even count calories. Yet the scale doesn't move. Or worse, it creeps upward no matter what you do. You tell yourself it's just metabolism or age or hormones, but deep down there's that voice that whispers, something doesn't make sense. Because you're trying, you're disciplined, and still your body refuses to respond. It's not your imagination. There are hidden reasons, buried in the foods most people believe are healthy, that keep your metabolism locked, your energy low, and your body holding on to fat even when you think you're doing everything right. These are not exotic foods or fast food indulgences. They're the ordinary things that sit in your kitchen, things you might eat daily with a sense of pride, believing they're helping you. Yet for people over 50, the body no longer reacts to them the way it did in your 30s or 40s. The chemistry has changed. Hormones shift, insulin sensitivity declines, and digestion slows. The foods that once helped you maintain your weight may now quietly sabotage your efforts. And the most dangerous part? They don't show their effects overnight. They work slowly, subtly, building resistance in your cells, altering your hunger signals, and convincing your body to store rather than burn. Most of us never question them because they've been marketed as healthy for decades. You see them on every grocery store shelf, in every nutrition article, recommended by friends and even some doctors. But what's rarely explained is how these foods behave in a body over 50. Because metabolism after 50 is not just slower, it's more delicate, more reactive. The same food that your body once processed in hours might now take a day. The same sugar spike that once corrected itself naturally may now linger longer, keeping insulin high and fat locked in storage. It's not just about calories, it's about chemistry. Imagine this. You start your day with a breakfast that's supposed to energize you. A bowl of cereal labeled heart-healthy, maybe a glass of juice, maybe a slice of whole-grain toast. You feel good about it. It's light, balanced, not greasy. But inside your body, something different happens. That cereal, even the one with fiber and whole grains written in bold, rapidly breaks down into sugar. Your insulin spikes. Your cells receive the message to store energy instead of burning it. The juice, though natural, floods your bloodstream with fructose, a sugar that your liver must process. For a moment you feel awake. Then a few hours later you feel tired, hungry, foggy. You reach for a snack thinking it's just low energy. But the cycle has already begun. You've unknowingly sent your body into storage mode. After 50, your cells don't handle these swings as efficiently. The mitochondria, those tiny powerhouses that burn fat for energy, slow down. And when they do, the body defaults to storing fat, not burning it. Even your muscles, which once acted like furnaces for glucose, begin to lose sensitivity. It's not your willpower, it's biochemistry. And it's being hijacked every day by foods you've been told are good for you. There's a strange kind of betrayal in that, isn't there? You spend your life trusting food labels, following guidelines, believing that low fat, high fiber, and natural mean healthy. But no one explained how these words change meaning after 50. Your body no longer needs the same ratios of sugar, fat, and protein. It no longer metabolizes starches or grains the same way. Even something as innocent as an apple juice or a morning smoothie can behave like a dessert to your bloodstream. Yet the advice you see everywhere still tells you to eat more of it. That disconnect keeps millions of people trapped, trying harder, feeling worse, and never understanding why their weight won't budge. If you look closely, you can see the signs of these foods' effects long before the scale moves. You might notice swelling in your fingers when you wake up, a sense of heaviness in your legs by afternoon, a slight puffiness around your face or under your eyes. These are not just signs of aging. They're inflammation signals. Your body is reacting to foods it can no longer process efficiently. For decades, you were told that inflammation comes from processed junk food, chips, sodas, sweets. But in truth, it can also come from foods that are too high in hidden sugars, starches, and certain fats that your older metabolism can't handle. The body over 50 is more sensitive to blood sugar swings, salt imbalances, and insulin resistance. Each time your blood sugar rises too quickly, your pancreas releases insulin to correct it. But if this happens repeatedly day after day, the cells become resistant. That means more insulin is released and more fat is stored, especially around the abdomen, that stubborn belly fat that feels impossible to lose. And because insulin is also a growth hormone, high levels keep your body from breaking down fat efficiently. So even if you walk, even if you eat small portions, the chemical signal to burn fat never activates. The modern food industry doesn't help. Many of the foods designed for health-conscious adults are actually traps for aging metabolism. Low-fat yogurts with added sugars to make them taste better. Whole-grain breads that spike blood sugar almost as fast as white bread. Healthy granola bars that contain more fructose syrup than a cookie. Even plant-based alternatives like oat milk or almond milk often contain emulsifiers, gums, and added sweeteners that confuse your digestion and feed inflammation. These foods keep your body in a constant state of mild stress. Not enough to make you sick, but enough to stop you from feeling light, lean, and energetic. And then there's the deeper issue: trust. You trust that the word natural means safe. You trust that heart healthy means good for your arteries, but most of those labels refer to isolated benefits, studied in younger adults, not in people over 50. A cereal might lower cholesterol slightly, but its sugar content might raise your insulin all day. A juice might contain vitamins, but its lack of fiber can make blood sugar spike. A protein bar might seem balanced, but artificial sweeteners inside can trigger cravings later. It's a delicate web of half-truths. Here's what's often overlooked. After 50, your metabolism becomes more like a finely tuned instrument. Every note, every bite, every ingredient matters. The balance between blood sugar and insulin, between digestion and inflammation, between energy and storage becomes fragile. A food that once kept you satisfied might now make you sluggish. A light meal might now cause water retention. And because these changes happen gradually, most people never link them to what they eat daily. They just assume it's part of aging. But it's not aging alone. It's interaction between age and food, between hormones and chemistry. The saddest part is how this cycle quietly erodes confidence. You start to lose faith in your body. You stop trusting your hunger. You start avoiding mirrors or scales. And every time a diet fails, it feels more personal. But what if the real issue isn't you? It's that no one ever told you which foods stop working after 50. What if all this time, your body has been trying to tell you, through fatigue, bloating, or cravings, that something in your daily routine is keeping you from losing weight, no matter how hard you try? Weight loss after 50 isn't about restriction. It's about realignment. Your body still wants to burn fat. It still wants energy, vitality, lightness, but it needs the right environment to do so. An environment without constant sugar spikes, without inflammatory oils, without foods that mimic health but cause stress inside your system. When you identify and remove the foods that block weight loss, your metabolism doesn't just speed up. It stabilizes. Your hunger quiets down. Your energy returns. You begin to feel that sense of control again. And that's why awareness is the first step. You can't fix what you don't see. You can't fight what you don't understand. These 5 everyday foods that block weight loss aren't exotic or rare. They're sitting in millions of kitchens across the country. They sneak into breakfast, lunch, and even snacks, silently interfering with the very process your body needs to stay lean and strong. The good news is that once you recognize them, you can make small shifts, not radical diets, not starvation plans, but smart substitutions that respect how your body now works. Because aging doesn't mean gaining, it means adapting. And adaptation begins with awareness. Think of your metabolism like a light switch. In your younger years, it stayed on easily. You could skip a meal, walk a few blocks, and the body would burn fat naturally. But after 50, the switch becomes more sensitive. The wrong foods, even small amounts, can flick it off. Your goal isn't to push harder, it's to remove the things that keep flipping that switch the wrong way. Because once it stays on, your body knows exactly what to do. It remembers how to burn fat, how to regulate appetite, how to stay balanced. You just have to get out of its way. In the next phase, we'll uncover what those specific foods are, and why, for someone over 50, they don't just slow weight loss, but actively block it. The reasons go far beyond calories or carbs. They involve hormones like insulin and leptin, digestive changes, and the way your cells interpret signals of hunger and fullness. But before naming them, you need to understand something essential. Your body is not broken. It's responding exactly as it should, to the messages it's receiving. Change the message, and you change the outcome. For now, sit with that awareness. The foods you trust most may be the ones holding you back. And the real solution isn't in eating less. It's in learning to eat right for the body you have today, not the one you had 20 years ago. Because after 50, wisdom isn't just in the mind. It's in how you choose to feed your body. There's a subtle kind of betrayal that comes with age, not from others, but from the foods we once trusted. You see, when you were younger, your metabolism was forgiving. You could enjoy a slice of bread, a splash of juice, a dollop of yogurt, and your body handled it with ease. Your muscles were insulin sensitive, your liver efficient, your gut lining resilient. But after 50, the biological landscape changes. Hormones shift, muscle mass declines. The body's tolerance for sugar, starch, and processed fats decreases dramatically. The very same foods that once nourished you begin to work against you. And the worst part is, you don't feel it immediately. You only notice the aftermath, the stubborn weight, the slower mornings, the swelling in your hands, the fatigue that hits in the middle of the day. These are not coincidences. They're signals of metabolic resistance. Science calls it metabolic inflexibility. It means your body loses the ability to switch efficiently between burning carbs and burning fat for energy. Think of it like a hybrid car that suddenly forgets how to use one of its fuels. It gets stuck on the easiest but least efficient source, sugar. And every time you eat foods that rapidly convert into glucose, you reinforce that dependence. You stop burning fat, not because you're lazy, but because your cells are overwhelmed with signals telling them to store energy instead of using it. The modern diet makes this problem almost impossible to avoid, especially for people trying to eat healthy. Take, for instance, the first major culprit, breakfast cereals, even the ones labeled whole grain. These foods are designed to look nutritious, a mix of grains, maybe some nuts or dried fruit, a promise of fiber. But what they actually deliver is a concentrated hit of starch that your body quickly turns into sugar. For a metabolism over 50, that spike is devastating. Within minutes, blood sugar rises, insulin follows. And because older cells respond more slowly, insulin stays high for longer. As long as insulin is high, fat burning is turned off. Your body is locked into storage mode. Even if the cereal is low fat and it doesn't matter, you're not burning fat when insulin dominates, but cereal is only the beginning. The second silent offender is fruit juice. You might think of it as nature's drink, pure, full of vitamins, harmless. Yet fruit juice is one of the most misleading health foods ever created. In nature, fruit comes with fiber, water, and pulp, all of which slow down sugar absorption. But once you strip that away, you're left with fructose in liquid form, and the liver pays the price. When you drink a glass of orange juice, you're consuming the sugar of 4 or 5 oranges in seconds. The liver can't metabolize it fast enough, so it converts the excess into fat, especially visceral fat, the kind that wraps around your organs and keeps your waistline from shrinking no matter how little you eat. Studies show that people who drink fruit juice regularly have higher triglycerides and more belly fat, even when total calories are controlled. The third food might surprise you because it wears a heart-healthy halo, whole wheat bread. It's been marketed as the smarter choice for decades, but in truth, most commercial whole wheat bread is made from highly processed flour that behaves almost identically to white bread in your bloodstream. It spikes glucose, triggers insulin, and keeps you trapped in that storage cycle. The rough texture might fool your tongue into thinking it's fiber-rich, but chemically, it's not that different. After 50, even small glucose spikes matter. Your pancreas doesn't recover as quickly, and those repeated surges accelerate insulin resistance, the quiet prelude to diabetes, weight gain, and fatigue. Then there's low-fat yogurt, another nutritional mirage. The idea of removing fat to make something lighter might have worked decades ago when the focus was only on calories. But we now know that when food manufacturers remove fat, they almost always add sugar, flavorings and stabilizers to keep it palatable. For a body over 50, this combination is metabolic poison. The sugar floods your bloodstream. The artificial sweeteners disrupt your gut bacteria, and the lack of fat prevents proper hormone regulation. Fat isn't the enemy. It's the messenger your body uses to regulate hunger and energy. Without it, you're never satisfied. You eat more, you crave more, and your metabolism gets more confused. The fifth and final everyday saboteur is perhaps the most deceptive: plant-based milk alternatives like oat milk or almond milk. These drinks became popular as a response to dairy intolerance, but most commercial versions are loaded with hidden sugars, gums, and emulsifiers. Oat milk, in particular, is essentially liquid starch. 1 cup can raise blood sugar as much as a soda. And because these beverages are often consumed daily, in coffee, smoothies, cereals, they create a constant low-grade insulin response. For a metabolism that's already struggling, that's like adding kindling to a fire you're trying to put out. All 5 of these foods share a common trait: they raise insulin, and insulin is the gatekeeper of fat metabolism. When it's elevated, your body cannot access stored fat for energy. It's not a matter of discipline, it's a matter of chemistry. High insulin locks the door to fat burning, and every sip, bite, or snack that keeps it high prolongs the lockout. Over weeks and months, this creates a body that's constantly storing, not just fat, but water and inflammation. That's why you might feel puffy, why your rings feel tighter, why you wake up heavier even after eating light. It's your body reacting to chemical messages it no longer manages efficiently. And here's the deeper layer most people never hear. After 50, your muscle tissue becomes less responsive to insulin. That means when you eat carbs, even healthy ones, your muscles no longer absorb the glucose effectively. Instead, it stays in your bloodstream longer, and your pancreas compensates by releasing more insulin. Over time, that extra insulin keeps telling your body to store fat, not burn it. Meanwhile, your muscle mass slowly declines, a process called sarcopenia. And since muscle is the primary site for fat burning, every gram lost makes weight loss even harder. It's a vicious cycle. Less muscle means slower metabolism, which means easier fat gain, which leads to less movement and even less muscle. But it doesn't stop there. Elevated insulin also disrupts another critical hormone, leptin, the one that tells your brain when you're full. When leptin signaling becomes impaired, a condition known as leptin resistance, your brain never receives the message that you've eaten enough. You feel hungry even after meals, craving something sweet or starchy to finish the feeling of satisfaction. And because most people try to solve that by eating smaller meals, they often end up eating more frequently, which keeps insulin high all day. The body never gets a break. It never switches into fat-burning mode. This constant hormonal tug-of-war creates an illusion of normalcy. You might think your appetite, your cravings, or your sluggishness are simply part of getting older. But they're not random. They're the downstream effects of eating foods that your 50-year-old metabolism can't handle the way it used to. Every spike in blood sugar, every crash in energy, every craving at night, they're biochemical echoes of meals that your body can't balance anymore. What's more, these foods don't just affect your waistline. They influence your gut health, your inflammation levels, and even your sleep quality. High-sugar foods alter the microbiome, reducing beneficial bacteria that regulate metabolism. They also increase production of endotoxins, compounds that trigger low-grade inflammation throughout the body. You might not feel sick, but you feel tired. You feel heavy. Your body is working against invisible inflammation every single day. Even sleep, that sacred time of recovery, suffers. When blood sugar fluctuates wildly throughout the day, it doesn't magically stabilize at night. Your body continues fighting to balance it, which means you might wake up at 3 a.m. without understanding why. That restless sleep isn't just stress, it's a metabolic imbalance echoing into the night. And poor sleep, in turn, raises cortisol, another hormone that promotes fat storage. Suddenly you're trapped in a loop. The foods you eat keep insulin high, poor sleep keeps cortisol high, and both keep your body locked in fat storage mode. The risk isn't only physical, it's emotional. Because when you follow all the rules, eat low-fat, choose whole grains, drink juice instead of soda, and still don't lose weight, it chips away at your motivation. You start to believe your body is the problem. You push harder, restrict more, and yet nothing changes. The truth is, the problem isn't effort, it's strategy. You're following outdated nutritional advice designed for a metabolism you no longer have. And as long as you keep eating these foods, you're reinforcing the very chemistry that keeps you stuck. The good news: the process is reversible. Metabolic resistance isn't permanent. Your body can regain flexibility, the ability to switch between burning sugar and fat, but only if you remove the triggers that keep insulin high and inflammation constant. Awareness is the first step, but recognition is the second. You need to see these foods for what they are, not evil, not toxic, but mismatched for the body you live in now. They belong to a different chapter of your life, one where metabolism was faster, hormones more forgiving, and repair more immediate. At this stage of life, every bite matters more, not because you should fear food, but because food has become information. Each meal sends a message to your body: store or burn, calm or inflame, heal or stress. And right now, millions of people over 50 are unknowingly sending the wrong message every morning. They start their day with foods that block fat burning and spend the rest of the day wondering why they feel heavy, tired, and stuck. But once you change that first signal, that first meal, the body begins to respond. As you begin to understand these hidden risks, it becomes clear. The foods that block weight loss aren't just about weight. They affect energy, focus, mood, and longevity. They whisper to your cells to slow down, to store, to conserve. They dull the vibrancy that once came easily. And the longer you keep them in your routine, the harder it becomes for your body to remember how to burn, how to balance, how to thrive. But here's what most people don't realize. Once you remove these foods, the body rebounds faster than you think. Within days, inflammation begins to decline, water retention fades, hunger stabilizes. Within weeks, your metabolism becomes more efficient. And within months, you start to feel the quiet hum of energy that you thought was lost to age. It's not age, it's adaptation. And adaptation begins when you stop feeding resistance and start fueling renewal. Picture this. You wake up in the morning, look at yourself in the mirror, and notice a puffiness around your face that wasn't there a few years ago. Your eyes feel heavy. Your body feels thicker, slower, even though you haven't changed much about your routine. You eat what you think is healthy. Some cereal, a splash of juice, maybe toast or yogurt, and yet something deep inside your body is shifting. What you can't see is what's happening beneath your skin, at the microscopic level, where every bite of food is translated into chemical messages. Inside your bloodstream, the cereal, the juice, the bread, all break down into glucose almost immediately. Glucose is not evil, it's energy. But too much of it too fast turns into a problem, especially in a body over 50. Your pancreas rushes to release insulin, a hormone that acts like a key, unlocking your cells to let the glucose in. But after decades of repeated sugar surges, your cells don't respond as they used to. The locks are rusted, the keys struggle to fit. So your body compensates. It releases even more insulin, shouting at your cells to listen. And when they still don't respond properly, the excess glucose has nowhere to go. It begins to circulate, irritating your blood vessels, stiffening your arteries, and coating your red blood cells with sugar molecules, a process known as glycation. This glycation is one of the silent culprits behind accelerated aging. It damages collagen, the very protein that keeps your skin firm and your joints flexible. It also thickens blood vessel walls, making it harder for oxygen and nutrients to reach your tissues. That's why your skin might lose its glow, why your recovery after exercise feels slower, why your hands and feet sometimes feel colder. The sugar isn't just in your blood. It's affecting your entire system's ability to renew itself. Meanwhile, the insulin you've been releasing in excess sends a message to your fat cells. Store everything you can. The body, following this hormonal instruction, holds on tightly to fat, especially around your abdomen, liver, and internal organs. Over time, this visceral fat doesn't just sit there. It becomes metabolically active. It begins to release inflammatory chemicals called cytokines. These cytokines interfere with hormonal balance, reduce insulin sensitivity even more, and cause low-grade inflammation throughout your body. It's a self-feeding loop. The more fat you store, the more inflammation you create, and the more your metabolism resists change. If you could peer inside your bloodstream, you'd see a traffic jam of signals. Insulin trying to shuttle glucose into cells, cortisol rising to manage blood sugar crashes, leptin failing to tell your brain you're full, ghrelin, the hunger hormone, rising every few hours because your body thinks it's starving even when it isn't. The balance is gone. The elegant system that once maintained homeostasis is now caught in a hormonal storm. And it all begins with the foods that trigger these repeated spikes, foods that don't look harmful, but act like accelerants for inflammation. Even your liver, one of the most powerful organs of detoxification and energy balance, begins to struggle. Fructose from fruit juice or sweetened healthy foods doesn't raise blood sugar immediately, but it overloads the liver. Because fructose is metabolized differently than glucose, it bypasses the usual energy checkpoints and heads straight into fat production. Over time, this contributes to a condition known as fatty liver, something increasingly common in people who don't even drink alcohol. Their fatty liver slows metabolism, increases insulin resistance, and makes it nearly impossible to lose belly fat. And yet, most people never know it's happening because it's silent. No pain, no symptoms, just gradual metabolic slowdown. Now imagine this happening every day for years. Each breakfast, lunch, and snack layering subtle damage. The arteries become less flexible. The mitochondria, those tiny energy factories in your cells, start to malfunction. They can no longer convert nutrients into clean energy efficiently, leading to fatigue and sluggishness. When mitochondria slow down, your entire body slows down. You feel it as brain fog, low energy. And that quiet frustration of knowing you're doing everything right but still feeling wrong. Then there's the gut, a world of its own. Inside your digestive tract live trillions of bacteria, many of which are directly involved in metabolism, immune regulation, and even mood. These bacteria thrive on balance, natural fibers, healthy fats, and a moderate amount of protein. But when the diet becomes dominated by starches, processed grains, and sweetened healthy foods, the balance tips. Harmful bacteria that feed on sugar begin to outnumber the beneficial ones. This imbalance, called dysbiosis, causes your intestinal lining to weaken. Tiny gaps form, allowing food particles and toxins to leak into your bloodstream, a phenomenon known as leaky gut. Once these particles escape into circulation, your immune system perceives them as threats. It triggers an inflammatory response, releasing cytokines and other chemicals to neutralize the intruders. But when this happens every day, the inflammation never fully subsides. It becomes chronic, subtle, invisible. You don't feel sick, but you feel off, bloated, tired after meals, sometimes moody or anxious for no clear reason. This inflammation also interferes with insulin signaling, compounding the metabolic chaos that began with your morning healthy cereal. And what about hormones beyond insulin? Cortisol, your stress hormone, rises in response to blood sugar fluctuations. Every time your glucose crashes, after the spike from cereal, juice, or bread, cortisol steps in to rescue you, prompting your liver to release stored glucose for stability. But constant cortisol elevation teaches your body to store fat as protection against stress. Your body doesn't differentiate between emotional stress and nutritional stress. To your cells, it's all the same threat. So even if you're emotionally calm, your blood chemistry may be screaming emergency. Leptin, which should tell your brain you've eaten enough, becomes less effective because of all this inflammation. You might eat a full meal and still feel unsatisfied an hour later. Ghrelin, which should quiet down after eating, doesn't. It keeps whispering that you're hungry. And because your cells can't access stored fat efficiently, your brain believes it. It tells you to eat more. That's why cravings intensify. That's why late-night snacking becomes harder to resist. It's not weakness. It's a survival signal gone haywire. Your thyroid, the small butterfly-shaped gland in your neck that regulates metabolism, also feels the consequences. Chronic inflammation and blood sugar swings interfere with the conversion of inactive thyroid hormone, T4, into its active form, T3. Without enough T3, your metabolic rate drops. You burn fewer calories at rest. Even your mood dips because thyroid hormones influence serotonin production. And so the cycle continues. You eat healthy, but your body's internal chemistry interprets it as stress, leading to slower metabolism, lower energy, and emotional frustration. Now let's move from the inside to what you can feel. That heaviness in your legs after meals. It's not just fatigue, it's circulation slowing down because your blood has become thicker from repeated sugar spikes. The mild swelling in your joints? That's inflammatory fluid retention, often worsened by hidden sugars and starches that draw water into your tissues. The afternoon crash, where you feel like you could nap at your desk. That's a blood sugar roller coaster, catching up with your energy levels. Your body is incredibly intelligent. It's not malfunctioning. It's reacting to an environment it wasn't designed for. After 50, the sensitivity to glucose, fructose, and refined starches increases exponentially. Your body is signaling distress, not defiance. Every craving, every ounce of stubborn fat, every sleepless night. They're not punishments. They're communication. Your body is saying, something needs to change. And here's the most striking part. This internal storm doesn't just affect physical health. It affects emotional resilience. Chronic inflammation has been linked to mood swings, anxiety, and even depression. The brain and body are in constant conversation through biochemical messengers. When inflammation is high, those signals get distorted. That's why, for many people over 50, weight gain isn't just about how they look. It's about how they feel inside. The fatigue, the irritability, the loss of motivation, they're symptoms of an overworked, inflamed system. If you were to visualize what's happening, imagine your body as a house. For years you've used the same cleaning products, the same routines, but over time residues have built up in the corners, invisible layers of dust, oil, and grime. The air feels heavy, the light less bright, but you don't notice until one day you open the windows and realize how much had been trapped inside. That's what happens when you remove the foods blocking your metabolism. Suddenly your body starts to breathe again. Inflammation subsides, hormones begin to recalibrate, and energy, that clean, effortless kind, starts to return. But until that shift happens, the impact of these everyday foods continues silently. Your body becomes less efficient at regulating temperature, less responsive to exercise, and more prone to storing fat even when you eat modestly. Your mitochondria, the engines of vitality, produce less energy, creating more free radicals in the process. These free radicals damage cells, accelerating aging from the inside out. It's not just about wrinkles or waistlines, it's about cellular aging, the kind that determines how vibrant, alert, and strong you feel day to day. There's also a less visible consequence, the loss of metabolic confidence. You begin to distrust your hunger cues, your cravings, even your progress. You might say to yourself, nothing works anymore. But what's truly happening is a mismatch between your current physiology and your old habits. You're trying to drive a new car with an old map. The road has changed, but the guidance hasn't. The foods that once fueled you now flood you, and until that realization settles in, it's easy to think your body has turned against you, but it hasn't. It's simply asking you to listen differently, to feed it differently. That's the impact, and not just chemical, but emotional, metabolic, and psychological. The foods that block weight loss after 50 do more than add pounds. They reshape the entire conversation between your brain and body. They make your cells less responsive, your energy less stable, and your confidence less certain. But awareness of this impact is not meant to scare you. It's meant to wake you up, to show that every feeling of heaviness, fatigue, or frustration has a reason. And that reason can be undone, because once you understand what's happening inside, you can begin to change it. You can replace those metabolic blockers with foods that calm inflammation, balance insulin, and restore your body's rhythm. The process is not about restriction, it's about reactivation. In the next block, we'll explore how that transformation begins, how small, strategic shifts in what you eat and when you eat can restore balance, reset hormones, and reignite the natural fat-burning ability your body has never truly lost, only forgotten. Now, imagine this. You wake up one morning and something feels subtly different. Your body doesn't ache the same way. Your stomach feels flatter, calmer. There's a quiet clarity in your mind, the kind that hasn't been there in years. You drink a glass of water and realize you're not craving the usual cereal or toast. You want something lighter, something clean. And it's not willpower, it's biology. Because the moment you remove the foods that block your metabolism, your body begins to remember. It remembers how to balance itself, how to burn, not store, how to find energy without begging for sugar. The relief doesn't come from eating less. It comes from feeding your body what it's been asking for all along. Once you stop triggering those blood sugar spikes, your insulin levels begin to normalize. Your liver, which has been drowning in excess fructose and starch, finally gets a chance to breathe. It starts to clear out the stored fat that's been sitting silently inside its cells. Within days, your metabolism begins to shift gears from constant sugar burning to steady fat burning. You might notice your hunger fade between meals. You stop thinking about food all the time. That's your hormones stabilizing. That's your leptin finally being heard again. You see, your body was never broken. It was overwhelmed. It was trying to protect you. All those years it held on to weight, all those cravings, all those afternoon crashes, they weren't failures. They were protective mechanisms triggered by foods that no longer match your metabolic rhythm. When you start eating in harmony with that rhythm, everything begins to calm down. Your energy stops crashing because your blood sugar stays steady. Your cravings quiet because your cells are finally getting enough fuel. Even your mood lifts because your brain isn't swimming in inflammatory chemicals anymore. So what does that look like in real life? It's not about cutting out entire food groups or punishing yourself with extreme diets. It's about removing confusion from your plate. Your metabolism thrives on simplicity. When you eat foods that your body recognizes, whole, natural, nutrient-dense, it knows exactly what to do. The message to your cells becomes clear again. Use, don't store. Repair, don't inflame. Restore, don't resist. Let's take those 5 metabolism-blocking foods and look at their opposites, the replacements that bring relief. Instead of breakfast cereals or granola, imagine starting your day with a high-protein meal, something like eggs, avocado, or unsweetened Greek yogurt with chia seeds. Protein in the morning stabilizes blood sugar, reduces hunger later in the day, and signals your body to preserve muscle. For people over 50, this is essential. Protein is no longer just about strength. It's about maintaining metabolism. Every ounce of muscle you protect is a defense against fat gain. It's your internal fat-burning machinery. Instead of fruit juice, reach for whole fruit, especially berries, which are low in sugar and high in antioxidants. When you eat fruit in its natural form, the fiber slows down absorption, giving your liver time to process fructose without turning it into fat. You still get the vitamins, the hydration, the sweetness, but none of the metabolic chaos. Whole fruit is nature's time-release version of energy. Instead of commercial whole wheat bread, look for true whole grains, or even better, minimize grains altogether for a time. Replace toast with fiber-rich vegetables, or try using a base of greens, eggs, or oats made with water instead of milk. Your body doesn't need constant starch to function. In fact, reducing starch helps your insulin rest. The less insulin your body releases throughout the day, the more efficiently it burns stored fat. This doesn't mean no carbs. It means choosing carbs that are earned by activity, not habit. Instead of low-fat yogurt, choose full-fat, unsweetened varieties or even fermented alternatives like kefir. Natural fats help regulate hormones, enhance satiety, and support the absorption of fat-soluble vitamins, A, D, E, and K. When your body receives these nutrients in balance, your mood improves, your energy stabilizes, and your hunger finally makes sense again. Fat doesn't make you fat. Imbalance does. And instead of plant-based milks loaded with sugars, gums, and additives, use simpler options: unsweetened almond milk, coconut milk, or even just filtered water with your coffee. If you prefer dairy, full-fat milk from grass-fed sources can be a better option for some. The goal is to avoid the unnecessary additives that confuse digestion and elevate insulin. Your metabolism craves clarity. When you begin eating this way, something beautiful happens. Your hormones start to synchronize again. Your cortisol settles, your leptin sensitivity improves, and your ghrelin, the hunger hormone, quiets. You stop chasing energy because your body starts producing it naturally again. The cravings that once felt unbearable begin to fade. The energy you thought was lost to age begins to return. And it's not magic. It's the removal of interference. For decades, nutrition advice has centered around calories and willpower. But the truth is, metabolism after 50 isn't about discipline, it's about alignment. You can't fight biochemistry, you can only work with it. When you align your meals with your hormones, the body stops feeling like an enemy. It becomes a partner again. One of the most powerful ways to restore this alignment is to give your body more rest between meals. Intermittent fasting, for example, isn't just a trend. It's a metabolic reset button. After 50, digestion slows naturally, and your body benefits from longer breaks between eating. When insulin has time to drop, fat-burning pathways activate. Even a simple 12-hour window between dinner and breakfast, say finishing dinner at 7 p.m. and eating again at 7 a.m., gives your body a chance to switch from storage mode to repair mode. Hydration also plays a crucial role. Many people mistake thirst for hunger, especially as they age. Water helps flush out the byproducts of fat metabolism, supports digestion, and keeps your liver functioning efficiently. If you start your day with water instead of juice, you're already signaling your body to stay in fat-burning mode. Add electrolytes or a slice of lemon if you like, but keep it clean. Then there's movement. Not exercise in the punishing sense, but gentle, consistent movement that keeps your muscles engaged. Walking, stretching, light resistance training, these aren't just for fitness. They keep your cells sensitive to insulin. They teach your body to use energy rather than store it. And they tell your mitochondria to multiply, increasing your capacity to burn fat even at rest. As these changes take root, you'll begin to notice small but meaningful transformations. Your rings fit better, your belly softens, your energy feels stable throughout the day. You sleep more deeply, because your blood sugar isn't crashing in the night. You wake up refreshed, not groggy. And perhaps most importantly, your confidence returns. You begin to trust your body again, because the relief isn't just physical, it's emotional. It's the feeling of realizing that your body isn't broken, that aging doesn't mean decline, that your metabolism isn't doomed. It's the realization that your body has been waiting for you to stop fighting it and start listening. And the moment you do, it responds with grace. Even your brain begins to change. Stable blood sugar means more consistent dopamine and serotonin levels, the chemicals that regulate motivation and happiness. That brain fog that made it hard to focus begins to lift. You start feeling more clear, more alert, more alive. For many, this is the first sign that healing is truly happening, not just on the scale, but in the mind. Inflammation begins to quiet, too. The small aches in your joints ease, the puffiness in your hands fades, your digestion becomes smoother, less unpredictable. All of this because you've reduced the daily friction your body has been fighting for years. The foods that once kept your cells inflamed have been replaced with those that soothe. The chronic low-level stress that was draining your energy begins to dissolve. And when that happens, something powerful awakens, hope. Not the fleeting kind that comes from another diet promise, but the quiet kind that comes from understanding. You finally know why things weren't working. You see the logic behind your body's behavior, and that understanding gives you control. It shifts the narrative from, "Why can't I lose weight?" to, "Now I know what my body needs." Relief also comes from patience, because this transformation doesn't happen overnight, but it doesn't need to. You're not racing time anymore, you're aligning with it. Each meal you eat without sugar. Each morning you choose protein over cereal. Each evening you let your body rest instead of snack. These are acts of restoration, small, quiet victories that compound into visible change. And as the days turn into weeks, you begin to see the reflection of that inner healing. Your skin looks more hydrated, your eyes clearer. The heaviness you carried, not just physically, but emotionally, begins to lift. You stop dreading the scale. You stop counting calories. You start feeling. You start trusting. Because relief, in the end, isn't about dieting or numbers. It's about peace. Peace between you and your body. Peace between effort and outcome. You no longer fight yourself. You no longer guess, you know. And that knowledge, that calm confidence, is what allows the healing to last. You've walked through awareness, seen the risks, and now tasted the relief that comes with clarity. But there's one final step: empowerment. Because awareness without empowerment fades. Relief without resolve slips away. The final piece of the journey is not just understanding what to do, but believing you have the power to sustain it, to make this new way of living not just a phase but your normal. And that's where we go next. There comes a moment in every health journey when understanding turns into instinct, when what once felt confusing becomes clear, and the choices that used to require effort begin to feel natural. That's the moment of empowerment. When you no longer chase health, you embody it. When the food on your plate isn't a punishment or a calculation, but a form of respect for the body that has carried you this far. Because after 50, health is no longer about vanity or numbers. It's about freedom. Freedom from fatigue, confusion, and the quiet disappointment of feeling betrayed by your own body. And that freedom begins the moment you realize you are not too late to change. The truth is, your body is incredibly resilient. Even after decades of habits, even after years of fighting against your metabolism without understanding why, your cells are still listening. Every choice you make, every meal, every walk, every night of sleep sends them a new message. And the moment you begin sending the right one, the transformation begins. Slowly at first, then all at once. Fat begins to release, not because you forced it to, but because your body finally feels safe to let go. Energy returns, not because of caffeine or willpower, but because your mitochondria are alive again, breathing cleanly, burning efficiently. Empowerment starts with remembering that health is not about perfection, it's about rhythm. There will be days when you eat something you shouldn't, when stress gets the better of you, when old cravings resurface. But one meal never defines you. One day doesn't undo your progress. Because what truly matters isn't the occasional slip, it's the pattern you live by. And when your new pattern is built on balance, real food, real rest, real awareness, your body forgives the rest. It's adaptable, it's patient, it wants to heal. Most people don't realize how quickly the body responds once the chemistry is corrected. Within a week of removing the major metabolism blockers, processed starches, sugary drinks, low-fat traps, your insulin begins to stabilize. Within 2 weeks, your energy patterns shift. By the first month, your sleep improves, inflammation drops, and your waistline begins to soften. But the most powerful change happens quietly on the inside. Your trust rebuilds. You begin to believe again that your choices matter. You begin to feel connected to your body, not as something to fix, but as something to partner with. Because that's what this stage is about: partnership. For years, you've probably treated your body like an opponent. You pushed it with diets, punished it with guilt, tried to outsmart it with willpower. But now, you know better. You know that your body wasn't fighting you, it was protecting you. Holding on to fat wasn't defiance, it was defense. Cravings weren't weakness, they were signals. Fatigue wasn't laziness, it was communication. Your body was asking for clarity, for nourishment, for balance. And now that you've begun to give it that, it's responding. There's something quietly powerful about watching your body heal when you finally stop waging war against it. You start to notice things that had nothing to do with weight, the way your mind feels clearer after meals, the way your mood stays steady throughout the day, the way your mornings feel lighter. You stop obsessing over calories and start thinking about chemistry. You stop worrying about numbers and start focusing on nourishment. The metrics shift from "how much did I eat?" to "how did this make me feel?" And when that becomes your compass, health stops being a goal and becomes a lifestyle. The power of this stage also lies in wisdom. You've lived long enough to understand that shortcuts don't last. You've seen fads come and go. You know that the secret is consistency, quiet, steady consistency built on truth. And the truth is simple. Your metabolism thrives on stability, not extremes. You don't need starvation diets or superfoods or detoxes. You need real food, eaten at the right time, in a body that's given time to rest and restore. You need hydration, movement, and calm. You need forgiveness for the years you didn't know better, and gratitude for the fact that you do now. Empowerment also means taking ownership. You no longer wait for a doctor, a diet, or a supplement to fix you. You become your own advocate. You start reading labels, not out of fear, but out of curiosity. You notice how different foods make you feel. You learn that certain healthy items are marketing tricks, while the simplest things, olive oil, salmon, eggs, greens, berries, hold the real power. You realize that your kitchen is more powerful than any prescription because it controls the chemistry that runs your body. And once you begin living with this awareness, everything else begins to shift. Your energy attracts different things. You start valuing rest. You protect your peace. You understand that stress, whether from food, emotion, or environment, always affects the same system. You learn to say no, not out of deprivation, but out of respect, because you finally understand that every choice, every bite, every thought, every breath is either helping you heal or holding you back. And when you start choosing the former more often than the latter, your body rewards you in ways that no scale could ever measure. But empowerment isn't just about physical healing, it's about identity. You stop identifying as someone who's trying to lose weight and start seeing yourself as someone who is reclaiming their health. That shift changes everything. When you see yourself as healthy, you act healthy. You walk differently, you eat differently, you speak differently. You stop measuring success by the mirror and start feeling it in the way you move through the world. And perhaps the most beautiful part of this transformation is that it ripples outward. When you start feeling better, the people around you notice. They ask what you're doing differently. They see the calm in your eyes, the steadiness in your energy, the vitality in your voice. You become an example, not because you tried to be, but because healing is magnetic. People can sense when someone is living in alignment with their body. It's in the way you smile, the way you breathe, the way you move through your day with ease instead of exhaustion. This is the reward your body has been waiting to give you. Not just weight loss, liberation, freedom from the constant guessing, the guilt, the restriction. Freedom from the myth that aging means decline. Because the truth is, aging simply means refinement. Your body isn't deteriorating, it's asking for precision. It needs less confusion and more quality, less clutter, more clarity. And when you give it that, it responds like it did in your youth. Perhaps even better, because now it has the wisdom to sustain it. You begin to realize that vitality isn't something you chase, it's something you unlock. It was always there, buried under inflammation, confusion, and noise. And now that you've cleared the interference, it flows naturally. You wake up with energy, go to bed satisfied, and live your day with balance. Food becomes nourishment again. Movement becomes joy. Health becomes effortless. Of course, the world will still try to tempt you with shortcuts. The new low-carb shake, the magic detox tea, the next trending diet. But now, you know better. You can see through the noise. You've felt the difference between manipulation and truth. You've learned that your body doesn't need to be tricked, it needs to be trusted. And once you experience that trust, nothing can convince you to go back. Empowerment also means resilience, because there will still be moments of stress, of celebration, of loss, moments when food becomes emotional again. But now you understand your body's language. You know how to listen when it whispers for rest instead of caffeine, hydration instead of sugar, stillness instead of control. You learn to live with balance, not perfection, but peace. And that peace changes the way you see aging itself. You stop fearing it. Stop. You begin to see it as a privilege, a chance to live more intelligently in the same body you've always had. You realize that longevity isn't about avoiding time, it's about enriching it. You're not fighting the years, you're refining them. You're learning to age powerfully with awareness and grace. In this final stage, you understand something most people never do, that the real secret to staying young isn't in the mirror, it's in your metabolism. A calm metabolism is a youthful metabolism, one that burns efficiently, heals quickly, and adapts easily. And now you know exactly how to keep it that way. Not through obsession or deprivation, but through alignment, through the small, consistent acts that tell your body every day, I am listening, I am grateful. I am taking care of you now, so take a deep breath. You've walked through awareness, faced the risks, understood the impact, and felt the relief. Now you stand in the light of empowerment, wiser, stronger, more at peace. You know which foods to trust, how to listen to your body, and how to maintain the vitality that's rightfully yours. This is not the end of a diet. It's the beginning of a new relationship between you and the body that never stopped believing in your ability to change. Because the truth is simple, and it's this: After 50, your body isn't slowing down. It's asking you to catch up to it, to feed it the way it deserves, to honor it the way it's earned, to finally live in partnership instead of resistance. And when you do, the years ahead don't just look better, they feel better. That's not just weight loss, that's freedom.